Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan Ellis. I'm with the Frevo Customer Success team, and I've also got Ashish on the line who will be helping to answer questions today. We're going to be doing a webinar today on how to integrate with document management systems. We'll show you a number of different ways that you can integrate Frevo. So we're going to start with a quick overview of what Frevo is all about, in case anyone here is not familiar with Frevo yet. Then we'll look at how Frevo integrates with several different document management systems. And throughout the webinar, we'll be doing live demos, so we'll actually show you how this works live. And then we will be taking questions throughout, so go ahead and use your go ahead and use your questions panel in GoToWebinar to type in a question at any time, and Ashish may answer you while we're presenting, or we'll definitely stop at the end and take a few questions. So Frevo, if you're not familiar with our company, we are a software that helps you automate and digitize your business processes. Frevo is super easy to use for business users. You don't need an IT department. If you can use email and Excel, you can use Frevo. It's really point and click, user friendly, and it helps you automate all of those business processes that maybe require approvals or several different forms to be completed. We have customers across a number of different verticals. Hopefully you see some familiar names on the screen. A lot of folks in education, both higher ed and K through 12, as well as government organizations, including police departments and some other types of businesses as well. Now, our customers use Frevo for all kinds of different business processes. So really common one is an employee onboarding, where you have lots of different forms to fill out. Some of them have to be very specific tax forms and that sort of thing. We also see Frevo used for purchase orders, for HR processes like a vacation request or an expense report, and lots of other things. Just about any process you can imagine, you can do it with Frevo. We are a complete enterprise grade solution, so you can see lots of the different features on the screen. We're going to really hone in today on integration, in particular with document management systems. What happens to our forms and data after the user submits them? Where do they go? How do we index them, search them, and use that form later? So that takes us into today's agenda, which is sending documents with Frevo. And when we say documents, we're talking about several different types of documents. So we've got the PDF snapshot, which is a built-in PDF of your form that Frevo provides for you. You can also map PDFs. So if you have, let's say, an employee onboarding that generates a W-4 form, the IRS doesn't want Frevo's snapshot of a W form. They want their own W-4 form. So you can map your form data to the IRS W-4, and that becomes part of the submission documents of your form. There's lots of forms where users will upload attachments at runtime. Those attachments also become part of your submission documents. And you will also have an XML document, which is basically all of the data entered in your form. Now, we don't see that used frequently, but if you need it, that is also part of your submission documents that you can send using the tools we're going to talk about today. And those 5 tools here are listed on the screen. We'll start with our built-in submissions repository that comes free with Frevo. It's just part of the product. Anyone can use it. And then we'll talk about some of the different connectors that you can use that are add-ons to Frevo to send to SharePoint, Docuware, Google Drive, or any document management system, such as M-Files, DocuShare, on-premise Docuware, and a few others that we'll talk about. Dropbox as well. Dropbox will be our demo for today. All right, so let's start by talking about the built-in Frevo submissions repository. So again, this is part of the product that everyone has access to. And it's a really fully functional, very robust submissions landing place. You can search and filter your submissions. You can actually even customize which fields in your form you want to filter by. You can download all of your submissions to a CSV. You can see all of the documents that were submitted with your instance, including digital signatures. You can even, with the right permissions, edit and resubmit submissions. And you have the ability to customize the access control, so the users that are able to view and even edit those submissions. So we're going to pop out of the PowerPoint for a moment, and we'll actually come over to Frevo so that we can take a quick look at the workflow we're going to play with today and that built-in submissions repository. So before we get to submissions, I just want to show you a few of the features in the workflow that we're using today. So this is a 3-step workflow. In the real world, this would route dynamically to the employee's manager and then ultimately to finance for processing. For today's demo, we have this set up to function as a screen flow. So we'll see all 3 steps on the screen, just for basically the speed of being able to demonstrate this for you. In the form itself, we have lots of different controls here. A lot of them are set up to pre-fill when we use the form. Some of them I've also given default data, again, more for the speed of the demo than anything. I did want to point out we have a table control here, which is a repeating type of control, and that'll become important in some of our integrations a little bit later. But basically, each control represented by a column here repeats on every row. So you might have multiple items in a purchase order. We also have an upload type control, which is going to allow the user to upload documents at runtime. There's a lot of ways you can customize this, including customizing the file name that is assigned to it, the type of document that can be submitted, and how many documents can be submitted. We've also got a few different types of signatures in this form. So the first signature you see here is actually a signature from palette. So it's a control you can drag and drop from the form palette, and it allows the user to sort of put in their signature drawing, but it doesn't have any validation associated with it. The manager and finance processing are both signed sections. So when we click on the section header and then the security tab, we see a signature configuration here. This is going to validate the user's identity. If it's a logged in user, it will validate based on their Frevo login. And if the step is assigned to email, it will pop up a little dialog that validates their email address is the same email the step was assigned to. The manager is going to be a signature drawing, and the finance signature is a little bit different. It'll put a text stamp of the user's name in the signature section. Now we do have some business rules, but they're not super relevant to integration, so we're going to pass over that really quick. And I want to show you that we also have a PDF mapped here. So we've taken the company's sort of internal purchase order PDF, and we've mapped form data to it by dragging and dropping from this form outline over to the fillable fields on the PDF. And all of the green squares indicate that those are mapped fields. So this, when at runtime, this is going to fill with form data and it becomes part of our submissions document. Over on the settings tab, notice that we have save PDF checked. So we're saving a PDF snapshot of this workflow right into our submissions repository. And this also can become part of the submission documents that we'll send to a document management system. All right, and then we'll take a quick look at the Doc Actions tab. On this first workflow that we're looking at, we have this set to send email. It really doesn't matter which one you pick. Workflows are always going to go to your submissions repository, and we're going to be exploring the other options here in the next part of our presentation. So I actually have a few submissions already in this workflow. So I'm going to go to the action menu and view submissions. This will take me to our built-in submissions repository, where I can see all of my submissions right here in this table. Now, the columns that I see include some like metadata or built-in columns, and also columns that I have configured as searchable fields that I wanted to see form data in this submissions table. So first name, last name, PO number, grand total, these are all searchable fields that I have customized to show up here. I can also filter these submissions. So when I expand the submissions filter, you can see I can filter it by date. It defaults to 1 month. I can also filter by state. So I maybe perhaps want to see all of my pending workflows to see what is still out there awaiting an approval. I can filter by fields as well, including the Frevo metadata fields and things like let's see, grand total, which is one of my searchable fields. So I could say I only want to see purchase orders where the grand total is greater than 300. As soon as I enter that, my table automatically adjusts to show me just those filtered submissions. And of course, I can change that and see a different set of submissions. We also have a few other features here. You can download all of your submissions to a CSV. And when you double click on any submission, you'll have another set of options for you. So if you have permission to edit the workflow, you'll be able to click on it, kind of open up the workflow, edit. You'll be able to edit any fields that are editable. Of course, be careful with that permission because it does change the data. And you can also resubmit it by clicking process and finish again. On the data tab, you're going to see all of the documents associated with your workflow. So in this case, I have the PDF snapshot. This is the snapshot of the form itself. I have the mapped PDF that we did doing PDF mapping. And of course, you can see all the form data is mapped right to those fields. And I can also see the signature drawings as well as any attachments that the user uploaded. In the signatures tab, we can see any of the authenticated signatures. So you can see the manager approval and finance processing. I happen to have approved those both myself, so it says my name on both of them, and any associated signature drawings. And then documents is the XML document I mentioned earlier. It is all of the form data in this XML format. Typically, you know, you're not going to use this a lot, but this can be helpful if you need to, you know, use that data for a web service or anything like that. All right, so that is our built-in submissions repository. Very robust solution in and of itself. But a lot of times you really want to send your documents to another document management system that you're using in your company. So we'll show you the next few ways that you can do that. So the next one I'm going to show you is SharePoint Connector, which, as the name implies, allows you to send your information over to SharePoint. You can send to up to 2 different destinations, a library or a list, or both. And it's really easy to map your control values to the SharePoint columns. So again, we'll pop out of here and over into Frevo. And before we dive into the designer, I did just want to show you where you would configure your SharePoint connector. So the tenant admin, you can see I'm logged in here as the admin, would click their edit tenant. And then once you've gotten the SharePoint connector from your Frevo account manager, you would configure it here with your SharePoint credentials.
Hey, Megan.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. There's some feedback that the screen is refreshing slower than you're talking. Maybe just, I'm not sure what to do there. It seems to be working okay for me.
Okay. Let me know if you need me to pause or anything like that.
I will, thanks.
Okay, sounds good. So once the tenant admin has configured that SharePoint connector in the edit tenant screen, the designer can come into, this is exactly the same workflow with just a different document action. They'll come over to settings and then document actions. Now, notice that because I've already got this send to SharePoint set up, as soon as I click that tab, it authenticates me to SharePoint. If you were just setting this up for the first time, it would actually prompt you to log in and give Frevo permission, of course, to connect with your SharePoint as a trusted app. Then you're going to configure the route, so how where you want to send your information and what data you want to send. So I'm going to give Frevo the site URL, and then choose a destination, either list or library. Of course, here I've selected library. And then I get a list of my available libraries, and we've chosen purchase orders. For libraries, your content type is typically document. And then I can configure what documents I want to send. So I've configured to send the PDF snapshot, any uploaded attachments. When I click that, I get this file control name, so that allows me to choose any upload controls in my form to send. And then generated forms, which are mapped PDFs. Again, I can choose one, more, all, whatever I want in this generated form field. And then we send metadata. So you basically choose a column right here from the columns that are available in your SharePoint library, and then you can send the form data by typing the control name inside curly braces. And Frevo actually offers a really handy drop down so that you can just pick your control name. You don't have to memorize it. And that really helps, especially because it is case sensitive, making sure you get exactly what you are hoping for. You can also configure a second route. So we'll do that together, and we'll send to a list. Let's see, I believe I have a purchase orders list here. Content type will be item. And we'll go ahead and send everything just so we can show you that. So again, see, I have a drop down. It shows me what's available to send for upload controls and generated forms. And then I'm just going to map one column, and that's going to be my title. And we'll call this PO. And so in here, I'm using a combination of static text, PO, and form data, PO number. And we'll do last name as well, just so we can have a little more information there. So let's go ahead and run that form and see how it works. All right, so we'll put in an email address here. A lot of my information is pre-filling, or I have filled it with default data. We'll order some widgets today, and we will attach a, let's see, we'll attach a little receipt image here. And then we'll go ahead and sign this with a signature drawing. Send it to the manager. Now, again, normally the manager would get an email. They could click a link or perform the step from their task list. For today, I'm just showing it to you all on one screen for the sake of time. All right, we'll approve that and send it to finance. This, you can see the signature is a little bit different because it automatically gives me a name and date stamp. And then we will send that to SharePoint. So we've gotten here a success message, and this is really good news. One thing that you'll notice is here in Workflow Actions, I can configure a message to show when my submission is successful, and a different message to show if there was some error getting it over to SharePoint. Looks like it was successful, so we'll come to SharePoint. We'll go to our purchase orders library first, and we can actually see if we sort this by newer, that we have our purchase order PDF, our expenses icon, and our mapped PDF were all sent over to SharePoint just as we had requested. Now, if I go to my purchase order list, we will also see here is my list with the title just as I configured it. And when I open that, I can see all of my attachments, including here the form XML, are attached to that list item. So it worked, where it's in SharePoint, and now I can use whatever other features that my company uses in SharePoint in terms of access to these documents, indexing them, all of that good stuff that you might use SharePoint for. All right, back to our presentation. The next thing I want to show you is actually brand new to Frevo, just in the last couple of weeks, and it's a Docuware integration. So we're going to be able to save your submissions to Docuware Cloud using a built-in connector in Frevo. And so let's go take a look at how that works. Now, again, I'm going to start here in my tenant admin page and show you that there's a manage connectors page right here for the tenant admin. What you would do is add a new connector. I already have one, so my add is disabled. But once you add, you'll choose Docuware. It's the only connector available in this interface right now, but we are expecting in the future to add other connectors in this manage connectors page as well. So we provide our base URL, org ID, and Docuware Connect or Docuware credentials. Important to note that the user that you configure here must have all the right permissions to view and edit and use the Docuware cabinet that you plan to write to. So those permissions are outlined in our documentation, but you do want to make sure you're choosing the right user to use in that connector. Once your admin has configured that, then your designer can go over to Frevo and they can configure a document action to send to Docuware. So same workflow, all the same settings. We're going to go to document actions, and this time we click send to external system. Then we select a connector from the dropdown. Again, Docuware is our only option right now, but that may change in the future and you'll have other options. Then once we've selected that, Frevo logs in as that user, and then it can see what cabinets that user has access to. So you pick one of those, and then you can configure the metadata or the fields that you want to send to that cabinet. So you can see I've actually already configured quite a few. You select your field from the drop-down here. Frevo is going to automatically detect what type of field it is, and then you can send any combination of static text or form data as well. Now, I did want to just point out that in this case, we are actually sending one of our repeating values. So I have a field called item info keyword, and I'm sending the item column from my table, but because it'll have multiple values, I want to send it in a JSON array. So I've used the special separator JSON pipe control name, and that's going to send all of those control values the way that Docuware needs to receive them. We're of course sending PDF, XML document, attachments, and all of our mapped PDFs. So let's run this form and let's see how that works. In this case, I'm going to order some widgets, and we'll also order some wingdings and some whirligigs. Make sure we have plenty of items to show in our Docuware connector. We'll attach some documents. In this case, I'm going to attach two different documents. So we'll attach an image and we'll also attach a PDF. And then sign it, approve it, and process it. All right, we got our success message again, so that's good news, and we would expect to see this over in Docuware. So we'll go into our Docuware instance, and what company did I have is the question. If not, it was Frevo Inc. There it is. Okay, good. So you can see here the purchase order that was submitted today. And there's the document date, and here's a few of the fields that we have mapped. If I look at the other index entries here, you can see that all of the fields I mapped are here of different field types. And then down in item info keyword, I can see all three of the items that I ordered in my purchase order. Then you can look at your document viewer, and you'll see that there are 5 documents that were sent, all paper clipped together. The first one you're seeing is the XML document. Then we've got the image and the PDF that we uploaded, the PDF snapshot of the form that was built into Frevo, and then the mapped PDF that we generated from our form data. So there it is, all in Docuware, all ready for the other Docuware features that you love: indexing, sharing, editing, etc. Alrighty. So that takes us to, what if you want to integrate with another file system like DocuShare, M-Files, an on-premise version of Docuware, Dropbox, pretty much any file system connector, or sorry, any document management system that you want. Our file system connector is the way to go. So this allows you to configure it specifically for the file system that you plan to send to, and you can generate metadata that matches your content management system and map that as well. So let's take a little look at how that works. Now, the file system connector is something that you install. So you can see here I've installed it inside of a Frevo Tomcat. Here's my file system war. And don't get too wrapped up in all of this. The documentation does walk you through exactly how to install this, but I did just want to show you a couple of things in here real quick. We also will configure our file system connector in the Frevo config properties. So we give it some special settings. Again, you can pretty much copy and paste this from the docs. Notice that I am sending my documents to a Dropbox folder in my file system. So if you look at my file system navigator, you can see this Dropbox, and then I have some subfolders in there, but the root is this Dropbox folder. Now you can also do metadata, and let's see, I've got that in my lib, I think. So the way to do metadata is with one of these FTL files. So I have an example in here that happens to be configured for DocuShare. We're not really going to use that today, but our documentation does have instructions for how to do that, and files that you can copy and paste to make your metadata work for your ECRM. All right, so let's take a look at how this actually works in the form designer. So we've got, again, pretty similar, oops, kick me out, hold on one second, let me just log in. Okay, so we've got the same basic purchase order, and over in the settings tab under document actions, we've chosen send to file system. We give it the URL of our file system connector, and then we set what directory we want those submissions to go. So remember, the root is already configured, so all I have to do is tell it my subfolder, and I can, of course, in this case, I'm asking it to create a new subfolder inside FSC submissions named purchase order with the purchase order number from the form. We're going to send our PDF snapshot, attachments, and mapped forms. In this case, I'm not configuring metadata for this simple example, but you certainly can if you needed to. So we'll run this form real quick and let's see if it works. Let's see, we'll order some wingdings this time. We'll attach a image. And here's our success message. So I would expect that if I go through my file system navigator, I would see these in the FSC submissions. And sure enough, here's the one from today at 12:30. So inside this subfolder that was created for me, I've got the uploaded icon, the PDF snapshot, and the generated PDF. And I've also got, this is a descriptor file, so this is how the metadata would be sent if you were using that feature. So Then I have this set up for my Dropbox to sweep that folder. So if I open up Dropbox here, you will see that in fact the documents I just sent are already in my Dropbox and can be shared, you know, across the company or whoever needs it using the Dropbox features that I'm using. So very cool, very flexible system. That is our file system connector. All right, and lastly, we'll look at Google Drive integration. So again, as the name implies, we can save those documents to your Google Drive folder. Now, you can actually try this one yourself. We have a demo form right here on our website that you simply fill out and submit. And once you do that, you'll be given a link to the sort of Google Drive where that got saved. Oops. And you can see there is my, well, I might have to do this real quick. That's my document from yesterday. Oh, you know what? It resaved here because I have the exact same name as I submitted yesterday. So here are all the files. Now they're duplicated because I just did another submission in a folder with the same name. So that is, that's how you can test it yourself, but I will show you how that works with our same workflow that we've been working with. So we'll come over to G Drive, and once you have your Google Connector, you will go over to your Document Actions tab, and now you need to connect Frevo to Google. So our documentation will show you how to obtain an access token, which is tied to your Google account. Now, the email associated is optional. I like to use it because in our company, we use actually different Google accounts for different types of forms. So I want to know which Google account I'm working with when I go to edit this form. You enter your token that's provided there and then log in. And that's going to show you all of the folders that this user has access to. And then you can select a submissions folder. So I'm actually asking Frevo to create a new submission folder for each submission named purchase order with the specific number from the purchase order form itself. This is an auto-generated unique ID. So when we run this flow, we should see a brand new folder in our Google Drive. So let's run it real quick and let's see how that looks. Google Drive is really simple, easy to set up. We use this all the time, even internally. My signature is getting worse and worse with every test. Alrighty, we'll look for our success message. There it is. And we'll come over to Google Drive. Here's the folder, Google Integrations Demo. And you can see that this purchase order 18649 was created by me just at 12:34. And inside that folder that was created are my mapped PDF, my PDF snapshot, and the image the user uploaded. All right, so I know that is a little bit of drinking from a fire hose. We've done our demo, so we'll go to the next slide. So now you've seen 5 different ways to use the documents created by your Frevo submissions in either the Frevo repository or your existing document management system. So Ashish, what questions do we have?
Thank you, Megan. That was definitely very, that was awesome and very fast. So the first thing is, anybody who has any questions or wants further information or clarification, please do reach out to us. We'll also follow up with you. with the recording of the webinar. So Megan, we have a few questions. One is what is the maximum size of the attachments, or do the attachments have a max size?
There is a max size for attachments. I'd have to go to the documentation to tell you exactly. I want to say it's like 20 megabytes, but that might actually be big. So we'll see if we can look that up for you real quick. But if you're on premise, you can also adjust that.
Right. I think it's essentially it's configurable in the Frevo server, and I think the Frevo Cloud has it currently set to 20 megs. I think you're right.
Yeah, that's right. And then you can also you can reduce that. So if you wanted to reduce the size of what users are allowed, oh, it's 10 megs in the Frevo Cloud. If you want to reduce that size, you can do that as well.
Okay. I thought we had just upped that to 20, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. The next question was, do we have to install the Docuware Connector?
No, that's one of the really nice features is that Docuware Connector is built into Frevo. So as soon as you obtain it from your account manager and you have that attached to your subscription or your license, then you'll be able to go into the Manage Connectors page as the tenant admin and just add it right there.
And that's true.
Nothing to install. Yep, that's true. Nothing to install.
Okay, awesome. Great. The next question is, I think you may have answered this. The question is, does Docuware work with on-premise? So I'm not sure if that means on-premise Frevo or on-premise Docuware.
But both. Yeah, if you're on-premise Frevo, you can use the same Managed Connector. I believe if you're on-premise Docuware, you would use the file system connector instead of the Docuware Cloud Connector. Yeah.
So the bottom line is you can use Frevo Cloud or on-premise connecting to Docuware Cloud or on-premise. Just depends on your configuration, and that you would use a different connector in each case. Okay.
Right.
The next question is, will this work with ImageNow?
Yes, in fact, I believe in our documentation, we even have a metadata example for ImageNow. So you would use the file system connector for ImageNow.
Okay. Okay, great. The next question is, I don't follow, it's not really a question, I don't follow how my documents go to DocuShare. So I think the answer is similar to Dropbox. It goes into a sweep folder in the file system, and then DocuShare, just like Dropbox or ImageNow or M-Files or Docuware on-premise, they can monitor that sweep folder, and the system can generate a metadata file that's specific to the document management system that you're trying to sweep into. Right, Megan? I don't know if I missed anything there.
That's what I would think as well. Yes.
Okay. The next question is along similar lines. Can Frevo integrate with ShareFile to store documents?
I am not familiar with that, but I think the file system connector is pretty flexible. It would be a great question to ask your account manager or our client services team as well.
Okay. Yeah, we're not sure about ShareFile, unfortunately. So we can get back to you on that specific question when we get a chance to research it a little more. The next question is, what do these cost? I guess that depends. You need to talk to account manager, right?
Yeah, I think so. We do have a pricing page on our website, and then a contact us form, or you can just email info@frevvo.com, and an account manager will get in touch with you and give you a custom quote for what you're looking to do.
Okay. And then can we also send the same document by email?
Yes,
The
absolutely.
answer is
So
yes, right?
yeah, let me actually even show you that really quickly. So in the document actions tab here, you can only choose one action for send documents. And so what if I want to send documents to Google Drive and I want to send an email at the end of the flow? We have this additional email wizard that would allow you to then send an email that can have
Right.
all of those same types of attachments and also custom subject, name, etc. So you can do both, send to Google or any of the other ones we demoed and send an additional email.
Okay. Okay. I think that's all. I don't see any further questions, Megan. So thank you very much. Very informative, and there aren't any further questions. So we're done.
Super. Well, we will get the recording out to you guys, and thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to connecting with you.
Yeah, one other note here, Megan, is that just wanted to mention that the next webinar is something where many customers have been looking forward to, and it's going to be on our upcoming dashboards. That's in 3 to 4 weeks, approximately. We haven't finalized the exact date, so look out for that in your email.
Sounds
All
great.
right, thanks, Megan.
Ashish. All right, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, take care.